What's up, guys? So I had a few comments actually asking me to pick up the Galaxy A34, so that's what we did today here. Going to be unboxing it, checking it out, and of course doing some comparisons. Be sure to let me know what comparisons you want to see. And yeah, so a lot of you guys were saying that this was a better phone than the Galaxy A54, which is interesting. I'm pretty sure, I think it was something about the chip. I didn't look too much into it. But yeah, so let's go ahead and check it out. This is the awesome silver, and it's pretty cool looking. Let's get this plastic off here. You can find these on Amazon. I'll put the link down below. Amazon, eBay. They're well under 300 bucks. It's pretty cool. Kind of changes color a little bit. Some matte finish. Feels like a plastic phone. And a little bit of weight to it as well. And yeah, so let's go ahead and run through this. It's pretty nice looking. And of course, oh, they don't give you a charger brick with the A series anymore. So you also don't get a charger brick here. We just have our SIM tool and USB-C cable. But you would think you would get a charger with the cheaper models, but guess not. All right, so let's go ahead and boot this up and check it out. All right, so we got the A34 up and running here, and I want to talk about the Geekbench score because this one stood out to me a lot, and a lot of you guys, told me to get it because of this. But this is actually pretty bizarre that you get this type of score on this phone. The Snapdragon is kind of comparable to, I'll show you guys, like a S20 FE, a Note 20 Ultra, as you guys can see in the single and multi-core score here. So I thought that was pretty strange. The chipset on here, so let's actually talk about that. So it's running Android 13 One UI 5.1, and it has the MediaTek Dimensity 1080 on here, and it has the Mali G68 GPU. This phone also does have a micro SD card support and 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM on the base. Just right off the bat, the phone is like very fast. It's really smooth, especially with animations and stuff like that. So I was pretty impressed with the overall speed of this phone just out of the box. You know, when you set it up, a phone, it can kind of have like that little lag and stuff when you sort of installing applications, but this was like super smooth. So for a, I guess a budget phone, I wouldn't even consider this a mid-range. It's really on that lower budget end, since it's lower than 300 bucks. But pretty impressive performance here. You guys can see just super smooth here with 120 hertz as well too. So I'm really impressed with the overall performance of this phone. To me, it feels smoother than the A54, definitely. All right, so let's talk about gaming on here. So this is kind of the confusing part because I'm pretty sure the A54, from what I looked up, it has the same Geekbench score or similar, but it's not as well optimized as this MediaTek chip. So this one does smooth extreme, and I could not get anywhere close to this setting on the A54, and I was not getting anywhere, close to HDR Ultra. So it seems like it's just better optimized. Now, they both have the same GPU, this and the A54 as well. They both have the Mali G68. The one difference I saw was MP5 and MP4. That was the only difference, but it shouldn't, it's got to be just this chip is just better optimized for gaming, I'm guessing. So honestly, if you were choosing between the A54 and this, you would just get this for gaming because it just plays PUBG way better on Snap. But yeah, I just thought that was actually pretty bizarre. And I'll show you guys. So this is the A34, and then when you Google, this is the same, pretty much the same scores. So yeah, so it just seems like the A34 is just a little bit, it feels faster and it just better well optimized. Now let's talk about the display on the A34. It's a Super AMOLED 6.6 inch display. It is 1000 nits peak brightness, so it's fairly bright enough. And then you also have 1080p resolution on here. You kind of have the older style notch on here. You don't have the punch hole. But overall, the display looks pretty good. It's 120 hertz as well too, which is really nice. So it's really nice, silky, smooth display. And of course, as always, you're gonna have a bit of bezel on these phones. But overall, the phone screen looks great. Honestly, can't really complain. You know, there's really not a big difference from this and that A54 besides the overall punch hole, really. But yeah, so absolutely fantastic display, really good angles on here, very good color on here. Like I said, it's bright enough outdoors, so no big deal with the panel on here. Now the hardware on here, it is a plastic phone, basically. It's plastic frame, plastic bag. It does have a really cool looking color on here. It kind of picks up fingerprints. Quite a bit here, but as you guys can see, very cool. Kind of almost reminds me of the Note, just how it kind of color shifts. But yeah, plastic phone. It does have SD card support, like I said, which is really nice. It's got 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. And it is IP67 dust and water resistant as well too, which I think is good enough. And yeah, so you know, hardware wise, it does feel like a budget phone. It is a plastic phone. But overall, not a big deal. It's definitely not an ugly phone. It doesn't look cheap. We've also got stereo speakers on here as well too. Let's go ahead and check those out. So pretty loud speakers, actually pretty clear and pretty good bass quality. So no issues with the speaker, actually pretty impressed there. And also for your software here, basically all your basic One UI stuff except for Samsung desktop support, of course. But all your essentials are here, like the Samsung Kids and Adobe Atmos, secured folder, all that good stuff is going to be on here as well too. So overall, not really missing out on anything software wise for the most part. This phone does have the under the display fingerprint sensor, and you also can do the face unlock. I don't have an issue with it. Like, it's not the fastest that I've ever used, but it definitely works 100% of the time. I have no issues with it. So yeah, so no issues there. And like I said, you can always just use the face unlock. And this phone, of course, does have NFC and all that good stuff. No headphone jack on here as well too. All right, so the cameras were kind of a concern of mine. I wanted to see, you know, what the image quality would look like on here. And actually, for this price, I wasn't too disappointed. You know, for a phone that's less than $300, I thought the photos were fairly decent. It's a 48 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and then it has a 5 megapixel macro. So there's no dedicated telephoto lens on here. It just uses the, you know, digital zoom basically for the main camera. It shoots in 4K 30, and then you have a 13 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 30. And overall, the image quality, like I said, was fairly decent. You know, decent selfies, decent color. Like I said, I'll compare it to some other phones so you guys can actually see, you know, what it looks like compared to, you know, other phones in its price category. But like I said, if you're outdoors and you just take a shot, I didn't think this phone, you know, I didn't think it did too bad of a job at taking pictures. Of course, you put it in some type of low light situations, not as sharp, you lose a little bit of detail, but overall I thought the photos were decent. This phone also has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, so you should pretty much get a full day of battery life out of this phone. It also has 25-watt wired charging as well too. So overall, the A34 is a very interesting device. Because it's, you know, basically around a $200 price point, $250, $260, and it's pretty interesting. So what do you guys think? What's your opinion on this device?